Okay, we are getting in a nice kind of generic project now. I like that because with that I can say cube now also extends geometry. Geometry. And my work as a programmer is pretty much now to define a cube as a list of vertices. The rest is going to be the same. I can, of course, I have to call super here. And it turns out our making a cube would require us going and creating every vertex of the cube. So for example, for the first face, we're going to have the front face of the cube. We're going to need 2 triangles for that first face. We would need this triangle here and then this triangle here, right? So every face of the cube is made out of 2 triangles. So we have 2 here, and then we have 6 faces. So then we would have 12 triangles, right, to make a cube. And that's a kind of a tedious manual work. So what I'm gonna do is actually, let me just start show you how it looks. For example, if you want to make the right face here, you would have this list of numbers. And then you would have 1, minus 1, minus 1, 1, 1, minus 1. I think 1, minus 1, 1, and so on and so forth. So you would have to define this all by hand and then do the left face, back face for all of these faces. And I have these vertices here for us already defined. So let me just copy and paste them. This is my vertices. Oh, here there's a problem. I don't want this. There's some zeros here, so I don't want. So now each line here is a vertex. And this is my right face. Each line here is a vertex and each number is a coordinate. So this is x, y, and z coordinate of vertex v0, v1, v2, v3, v4, and v5. And then you have the next face. And you have a list of 6 vertices as well. So this, and also this important, this forms one triangle, this forms another triangle. And we are doing this because remember when we draw, when you call the GL.draw, we call GL draw triangles. So we need to specify triangles to be drawn. So we are using triangles to draw cubes. You guys did it. You guys use triangles to draw a circle in assignment 1. And so every single geometry in our case here is going to be it's going to boil down to a bunch of triangles, including like if you have a 3D model of a very like high resolution character, at the end of the day, if you kind of zoom in a lot, you'll see a bunch of triangles. It could be millions of triangles, but to make it look realistic, but they are essentially a bunch of triangles. Okay, but this is it. Yes, and we get all the properties from the geometry that we inherited. And there is a few changes because now we have a third element, we have a third dimension here that we are not handling yet. And let me show you that. Remember that, let's look at our shader. Remember that in our shader, our position was a vector 2. And indeed, in our triangle here, we only have x and y. So to accommodate and to generalize this concept of geometry for 3D, any 3D shape, I'm going to actually add zeros in here. So we zero the z, but we make sure that every vertex in our code has 3 coordinates, x, y, and z. After that, I want to now change my shader to use a vector 3 as position. And this requires me removing this part of the casting here, because now this 0 is coming from the vertex, from the geometry itself, and I'm not adding it on the fly. Okay, and I think that's it. If I'm not forgetting anything, let me refresh my page and see what happens. Ooh, we broke something. And let's see what that is. Oh, I see. Now here, we have to divide this by 3 now, right? Because each vertex has 3 elements. No. Hold on a second. What is the problem? Let's see. Vertices, static draw. Did this update it? Oh, wait. We might have to change our setup. Oh yeah, here. This also has to be 3, right? Because this is the dimensions of how many actually coordinates you have in your position, and here it's 3. This can be only 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we have 3 now. Okay, there you go. Sorry for that. But yeah, so basically now we can accommodate any 3D shape in our code. Done. Cool. Nice. So I think we can make a cube instead of triangle 2 and say cube here. To do that, we have to import the cube class. I don't think we are doing that. And geometry, no. Here, we have a cube now, and I want to push that cube to the world. And I think this all stays the same. Let's see. Huh, interesting. We see a black, I see a red canvas. That's because our cube, we are seeing one of the faces of the cube here. And it's all like perfectly aligned or perfectly positioned with our canvas. So we see, it's like we had our face kind of like perfectly on the side of the cube. So let's move the cube a little bit further away from the camera, and like quote unquote for camera, because we don't have actually this idea of camera yet. But let's translate it. What I want to do is I want to translate this cube on the z-axis. So we see it at least kind of, or you can scale it down also. That also works. Let's scale it down. We can do cube, before pushing it, we can do cube dot scale 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So now I'm actually shrinking it or in half, or dividing it in half. See, now we can actually see a one triangle and the cube is there. We only see a square because we need to kind of rotate this to see a little bit differently. And we only have rotate on z-axis now, so I don't think we're going to see that. If I rotate on the z, we won't see the other face, but we can implement the y in the y-axis, so then we see the face. So now this we're rotating on the z-axis, but if you implement the y-axis, then it should work. You should see the cube. Nice. Okay. So everything is working. Kyle is asking a question here. Isn't the order of verts in 3D important? I think he mentioned that briefly. What do you mean? I don't know if I got your questions. In what context you're talking about? What order are you talking about? In the cube? Here? Kyle, are you there? Hmm. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, let's move forward. So if you don't have any questions on this, we can move forward. But basically now we have this very generic way of making 3D shapes and even 2D and 3D shapes and put them in this world and keep creating new ones. And this is important because basically in your animal, you're gonna have a bunch of these objects. You're gonna place them in a certain way, and you're gonna apply transformations to them in a certain way to make it look nice. So it's like you're doing after having this kind of rendering engine or very simplistic rendering engine, you'll be able to make your first creative work, which is now then the part of kind of you as an artist is gonna assemble these objects to make a nice look 3D animal character.